Here are some of the headlines we are featuring today from your favorite news outlets at offthepress.com. The White House suffered a health scare over the weekend when First Lady Jill Biden confirmed that she is suffering from COVID-19, despite being vaccinated and boosted. So far, officials said that President Joe Biden has not been hit with symptoms of the coronavirus. In Donald Trump news, the swamp wants him convicted of January 6 charges. A new survey said that 64% of Washington would vote to convict if they got on a jury. North Korea's Kim Jong-un is likely headed to Moscow for a meeting that experts believe will lead to him a deal to help Vladimir Putin replenish weapons used in the war in Ukraine. And put Fox Sunday anchor Shannon Bream in the skeptical column when it comes to Mike Pence's chances to win the 2024 Republican nomination. She told the former vice president that it's unlikely. For stories like these and more updates all day long from your favorite news outlets, go to offthepress.com.
America's Voice Live, America's fastest growing news program. With Steve Gruber.
We've got to put America first. You do that by voting and bringing your friends to do the same.
Delivering the latest news, observations, and opinions. With the entire Real America's Voice team, America's Voice Live starts now.
Welcome to America's Voice Live. I'm Steve Gruber. Today is September 5th, 2023. Time to get to the day's top stories. Hope you had a great holiday weekend. Glad that you're here. One of the Democrat Party's most serious problems is the erosion of its support among non-white voters, people of color, you know. Yet for several reasons, the Democrats appear to be ignoring their erosion among these voters. Jerron Smith will join me with the latest numbers. Also, just in time for the new booster rollout, Dr. Jill Biden, you know, our First Lady, tested positive for COVID-19. She's been double vaccinated, double boosted at least. She has symptoms of COVID-19 now, although she's been vaccinated to the max. This is the second time in a little over a year that the First Lady has tested positive for the not-too-serious virus. And then later, a U.S. District Court judge found 5 pro-life advocates guilty of rescuing babies from abortion. Wow. Currently being held in a federal prison waiting a sentence that could go as far as 11 years. Dr. Jeff Myers will join me with that story and more. You don't want to miss it. Okay, so here we go. With Labor Day behind us and COVID mandates coming at us fast, there's a lot of things to talk about when we look at the presidential election, which, believe it or not, is next year already. The polling continues to plague Joe Biden's incredibly weak term as president. The country, according to a supermajority of Americans, is on the wrong track. A supermajority also don't think Joe Biden is capable of running again. He shouldn't be doing it. Most don't believe he has what it takes to run anything, including a bath, let alone the most powerful nation on earth. However, Donald Trump, getting pummeled by activist prosecutors, is taking its toll in some ways, and it has the left tied, has left them tied, Biden and Trump. Can you believe that? What's funny about that is the left can't believe it. For different reasons than myself, of course. You see, I can't believe that, according to these polls, half of the country would even consider voting for Joe Biden over anyone or anything else, including a tree stump. But the left, they're shocked Joe Biden isn't leading by double digits, a guy who can not put together a coherent sentence or tell you what the policies are. Here's former Bill Clinton administration member and lifelong Democrat George Stephanopoulos, along with Donna Brazile, the one who infamously gave Hillary her debate questions in advance. They're talking about how shocked they are. Listen.
It is kind of shocking in a way that despite all of the baggage that Donald Trump carries, he's tied with Joe Biden right now.
Yeah, I mean, George, when I looked at that recent poll, the Wall Street Journal, I said, oh, this could keep me up at night. Look, the problem is, and the biggest challenge we face as Democrats, I say we because I'm a Democrat, is that young voters, young Black and Latino voters, they're not ready to come back to the party. They're not even looking at the so-called messaging that's being sent to them about the economy, about climate change, about student debt relief. They are worried about their future. And right now they're looking for a leader who represents their values and their vision. And I think the president's campaign is going to have to really, go deep and go hard to motivate those voters to come back within the Democratic Party coalition, because without them, it is a tight race, and it's going to come down to 4 states.
Yeah, the geezer in chief's not getting it done with the young voters, or a lot of other voters in general. But look out. Looks like some of the left are allowing that realization to creep in that they may have gone a bit too far in trying to jail Donald Trump, which, let's be honest, would be a death sentence for a man almost 80 years old. They're not only trying to jail him, but essentially kill him. Is it any wonder? A lot of Americans would have a problem with that. But like I said before, I don't know how 100% of Americans aren't lining up to stop this, but Trump derangement syndrome appears to be alive and well with quite a few people. Anyway, Brazil went on, and just listen to this. She tried to remember the last time you've heard a Democrat talking the way she's talking about Donald Trump. Here it is.
But I have to say something, because, George, I'm old enough to say this. I've seen 2 movements outside of the social justice movements in my life on the political side. One was the Reagan movement. Reagan had a hold on his base, the country at large. They saw him as someone who was willing to stand up for American values, whatever that might have meant. Now, I thought it was reactionary. The other movement I saw was Barack Obama, hope and change. That galvanized the American people. I've never seen anything like this with Donald Trump. I mean, what doesn't kill you make you stronger? I mean, being being indicted, that's making him stronger. Raising $10 million using an ugly mugshot to raise money. This is a movement. And anyone who thinks that you can apply the old political rules to trying to defeat this candidate based on he's scary, he's ugly, whatever you might want to call him, this is a movement. And we have to respect the fact that it's a movement.
Oh, it's a movement, Donna. You got that right. And really what they don't understand is that the Democrats have helped make Donald Trump a movement. Make America great again, a movement. Making America America again, a movement. The left-wing media covered him nonstop in 2016 in the hopes he'd get the nomination and be easy fodder for Hillary. When he actually beat Hillary, they made an alliance with the deep state to try to take him out by way of a soft but continuous coup. When that didn't work, they tried to impeach him, which has led us to our current situation. And all of that is to try and make Trump leave the race. Doesn't look like Trump's going to leave the race for any reason, however. Some are trying to block him from getting on the ballot in several states. That's not likely to succeed either, and it may push more voters further away from the Democrats. A bigger concern for most Americans is the appearance of weakness and frailty on behalf of Joe Biden, who often seems confused, cannot remember people's names, cannot find his way off the stage, and who has set a modern record for vacation time spent while in office at over 40%. What can Democrats do at this point? I mean, they led Joe to believe he was really in charge, though most of it is just play acting. Here, sign this. Smile and wave over there, Joey. Just keep walking. Don't say anything. Okay. And though Joe Biden has never been very smart, he's always been very arrogant. Telling people he has a higher IQ or challenging them to do push-ups or whatever other embarrassing outbursts he would make, while lying about his background or his educational prowess. But how did they get him out of the race? It's after Labor Day. That means the race is getting serious. Sarah Bedford from the Washington Examiner laid out some of the huge problems Democrats would have if Joe Biden bowed out of the race now or waited even longer to do so. And the political risks are substantial.
Well, I think there's 2 separate considerations for Joe Biden, and they sort of demand different things of him, right? From a governance perspective, if he were to drop out of the 2024 race right now, he'd essentially be a lame duck president. He would have no credibility on Capitol Hill, no real credibility to sign any executive orders. So basically, the rest of his presidency would be spent on that decision. But politically, it would demand of him that he would step out of the race now, right? If he wanted a successor other than Kamala Harris, his historically unpopular vice president, because the longer he stays in the race, the less likely it is that a successor from outside of his administration would be able to step up and take his place. So politically, the consideration would demand that Joe Biden step out of the spotlight now. That would be forfeiting the rest of his presidency. And I think there is still a belief in the Democratic Party that Donald Trump, despite how high his unfavorables are, despite how politically weak he might be, that he is a tough Republican to beat. And Joe Biden is still, at this point, the only Democrat who's shown that it's possible to beat him.
Yeah, but can he? Bidenomics, my friends, that'll be the telltale of this election, I truly believe. You look around, you listen to people from all walks of life that are walking away from the Democrats. They're tired of being patted on the head and told that they just don't understand. The economy is great. If you don't see that. The border is secure. How do you not understand? And masks work, really. But really, all comes back to money and financial issues. Like I say, it's all about Bidenomics. Somehow, the administration keeps touting their success on the economy when we all know it's absolutely terrible right now. But don't take my word for it. Listen to this.
He's failed. Everything he does, just between the border, everything I pay for is more. So I don't know how Bidenomics works. If everything I'm paying is more, gas, everything. So.
Well, it means you pay more.
Yeah, you just pay more for everything. We try to come out on vacation for a little bit, but you see what you pay here. Businesses, I don't know how they're even surviving.
Yep, and that may not be how Democrat and media members who make tons of money and live in their penthouses in Manhattan or L.A. feel. But that is how the average American feels these days. And when it comes down to it, are those Americans going to risk their livelihoods and their families trying to elect Joe Biden again? Or will the ones who don't like Trump hold their noses and just say, look, it was better before? That really is one of the big questions leading to 2024. And we already have indications for what's to come. Joe Biden's polling numbers keep getting weaker. His failed leadership cannot be ignored by most Americans anymore, unless you work at CNN and must protect the senile old man like this little show.
I think people have forgotten how bad Donald Trump was. People have forgotten all the gaffes and mistakes that Donald Trump made as president, while the ones that Joe Biden makes are, front and center, and they are national news media. They get national news media and national news media attention. I think people have forgotten what a stressful, horrible, divisive time for America the Trump presidency was. The daily tweets leading to culture wars, the attacks on people personally, the dominant attacks on international leaders, just the way we lived for 4 years. I think people have forgotten that.
That's Anna Navarro, by the way, fake Republican. Claimed to be a Republican to get her job there at Chicken Noodle News. Then hates on every Republican. It doesn't matter which Republican it is. Donald Trump, Ron DeSantis, Chris Christie, whoever. If anybody calls themselves a Republican, she's there to attack them. She's a fraud. The Democrats are going insane, by the way, over this Wall Street Journal poll showing Trump and Biden tied. As I said earlier, they can't believe their scheming hasn't worked thus far to destroy Trump. Here's MSNBC whining with more proof.
They won't admit to being concerned, but, these polls obviously have been consistently troubling for an incumbent president who is well below 50% of his own approval ratings and well below the margin of error in terms of his margin against his most prominent foe, particularly when you think that foe has 4 indictments against him. The idea that you can't be, leading substantially an opponent who has been indicted 4 times for 91 felony counts, as we just said, is rather striking. But they'll tell you that they don't care about polls, that, don't pay attention to them. They're not always right. Look what happened last midterms. The predictions of a red wave were wrong. And that when push comes to shove, when the issue comes to a head in November of 2024, and people are asked to make the choice between Donald Trump and Joe Biden, some people may be disappointed with Joe Biden. They may not be happy with his age. They may think he hasn't done enough or done too much, depending on your point of view. But they'll find him more acceptable than Donald Trump.
I don't think they find him more acceptable. 2 scoops. Look, I like ice cream, too. And he's not qualified. So, of course, they're trying to spin it in the best light possible, but any candidate that is tied with your own and also faces 91 indictments, however ridiculous they may be, but that's just not good news for Joe Biden and the Democrats. If 91 indictments can't knock out your opponent, man, you got problems. Perhaps that's why the media is still doubling down on Joe and saying there is no evidence he did anything wrong with his son Hunter's business deals. Oh, yeah, sure. Listen to this.
Guess what the news might be when we all come back, or when Congress comes back? They're going to try and impeach Joe Biden based on charges that don't exist and evidence that doesn't exist. And they think that that will just redound to their benefit.
I was going to ask Susan Page about that. It does appear that Speaker McCarthy is under tremendous pressure to start an impeachment inquiry, even risking a government shutdown possibly in September over that issue.
George Stephanopoulos, key man in the Clinton administration. That's why he's out front for ABC News. Lifelong Democrat, lifelong political activist, talking about politics, and we're supposed to think that he gives a fair shake to anyone? Please. We know there's plenty of evidence Joe Biden likely committed crimes. It's now Republicans' job to actually expose all of it to the American people. Will they do it? I don't know. It's another big question for 24. Will congressional Republicans actually follow through? Or will they sit there too scared to go after senile Joe for fear it might hurt their own political futures? Well, you better figure it out, kids. The evidence is there. We've seen it. We've seen the emails. We know. Get your act together. Coming up, after the break, polls show that Biden's age is the biggest problem right now, and Trump's likability continues to go up a little bit. Jerron Smith joining me next, right here on America's Voice Live. Well, a Wall Street Journal poll spells trouble for the Biden campaign, as we were discussing. It finds that Biden's age and the effect on the economy, just two of the big issues that are really turning off voters. On the other hand, it shows that support for Donald Trump is going nowhere but up, with 59% of Republican primary voters ready to mark his name down on their ballot, an 11% jump from a similar survey in April. His lead over Ron DeSantis has also nearly doubled since April to a 46-point lead. This, as some polling also suggested, black voters are giving Donald Trump a new look because, look, Biden, all right? The indictment said, okay, but they look at Biden and go, dude, what have you done for me? Joining me live now to discuss the former Deputy Assistant on Domestic Policy Counsel for the former President Donald Trump and the author of Underserved, Jerron Smith, joining me again. Jerron, good to see you.
Good to see you again, Steve.
You know, so I saw this number, and you tell me what your impression of this is. In the 2020 election, between 8 and 9% of black Americans that voted for Donald Trump. But the support from those same voters today is at about 20%, 21%, according to a poll I saw. I mean, it's more than doubled, on its way to tripling. If that truly came to pass, if Donald Trump or any Republican got 20% of the black vote in America, it changes everything, doesn't it?
It does. In fact, my research has showed that he got 12% of the black vote in 2020. 1 in 4 black men voted for Donald Trump, and he increased his numbers from 2016, and his voting numbers were the highest since Richard Nixon in the minority community. And I think what you're seeing now is what people are feeling out on the streets. If you talk about Bidenomics, it doesn't feel like things are getting better, but people remember what the economy felt like under Donald Trump. You know, you had more money in your pockets, and it costs less to buy food, it costs less to buy gas. And these are real issues, especially for middle income and underserved families, which is why it's opening up opportunity for Republicans to really grow the vote in the middle class and in the minority community.
Yeah, in fact, you look at oil prices right now at $90, highest they've been in almost a year. When Joe Biden took office, I wrote this down. I keep it posted on my wall here in the studio. Mortgage rates were 2.25%, and gasoline at the corner station where I live was $2.29. And look, they say, well, inflation's only 3%. No, inflation's only 3% on top of everything else that's been going up in price for more than 2 years. 17% on average, and some things are more expensive. I mean, people that go to the grocery store, they know. Go buy 4 value meals at a McDonald's drive-thru, you'll spend $35. I mean, families can't afford that, Jerron.
That's exactly right. And then if you talk about their mortgages, I read a report that less Americans are even paying for their mortgage insurance just because of the increased cost on it. And so you're looking at every avenue around your everyday life, whether it's gas, or whether it's your food, or even the utilities in your home. And then you're seeing that wage growth is not even happening in the jobs. And that was one of the biggest statistics out of the Trump administration. And we talk about that in Underserved, the many policies that were directly related to the economic empowerment of underserved communities. And it's really opened up the Republican Party to now be the party of the middle class.
Right. And talking about disconnected and tone deaf, this administration, talking about the expense of everything. If you had your car break down today and you needed to buy a new used car, just a used car, the cheapest rates going, I talked to a banker earlier, the cheapest rates available are about 7.5% on a used car, and they go up from there depending on your credit, of course. And these jokers want us to go buy $80,000 EVs, but you get a $7,500, little discount on it, from the government. But it's absolute nonsense.
Yeah, it's disconnected. I think that the Democratic Party of today is full of elites that are really speaking to elites on the coast and not middle America. And I think that the Trump agenda and his economic policies more so help those in the middle class. And the America First agenda is a huge focus on how everyday Americans are living and how they can access the American dream. And if President Trump continues to kind of champion those issues, he's going to grow his support not only in the minority communities, but in all underserved communities across the country.
Well, certainly. I mean, and he should. I mean, you look at the body of work of Donald Trump, highest black ownership of homes, the highest employment rate of black workers in America. I mean, compare that to what you have today. There really is no comparison. I'll give you the last word.
Well, in the words of Jadakiss, the famous rapper, the hood doesn't really feel the economic effects of Biden, which is why he said that we did better under Trump. And so I think it's a real opportunity in this upcoming election to kind of write out an agenda that focuses on underserved communities. And so our book, Underserved, Harnessing the Vision of Lincoln's Vision for Reconstruction for Underserved Communities, maps that out. And I'm hoping that the president will continue to double down on some of that work.
Right. And trust me, it's not just black voters, it's Hispanic voters, it's white folks, it's people that are disenchanted with the lies of the Democrat Party over too many years to remember anymore. Jaron, always a pleasure, sir. Thank you for being here.
Thanks so much, Steve.
Really appreciate it. All right, so up after the break, COVID is back. Jill Biden has it. We'll discuss it straight ahead on America's Voice Live. Don't go anywhere. First Lady Jill Biden testing positive for COVID-19, as I told you at the top of the show, according to a statement from the White House that came last night. She's reportedly experiencing mild symptoms, will stay in the Biden's Rehoboth Beach home in Delaware. The president has tested negative so far, and White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre says he will continue to test regularly and monitor for symptoms. First Lady traveled with the president on Saturday to Live Oak, Florida to meet with survivors of Hurricane Idalia and recovery teams there. Although vaccinated to the hilt, this is the second time in a little over a year that First Lady has tested positive for the virus. She's had 2 vaccinations and 2 boosters at least that we know of. Could be more. The Wall Street Journal now reporting that several federal agencies have confirmed the growing threat of China's Ministry of State Security. According to the report, different Chinese nationals have attempted to gather intelligence for the CCP at over 100 separate Department of Defense facilities by either gaining access or trying to without authorization. Dressed as tourists. That's what they're doing. The DOD and the FBI say they are working on limiting these incidents, which at times appear accidental, as the CCP continues to test how safe these locations are. In one instance, Chinese nationals were found crossing into a U.S. missile range in New Mexico, while in another, scuba divers were found swimming in waters near a U.S. government rocket launch site in Florida. Accidents? Please. This, as President Joe Biden and his administration seem to continue to turn a blind eye and drive blind behind the wheel towards a China threat, continuing to send over U.S. officials and visits that typically end in embarrassment for the United States, but they just don't get it. Or they don't care. 3 family members, 2 mothers and a mother-in-law, sharing what it feels like to be disrespected by the Biden administration after they lost their kids during the botched Afghanistan withdrawal. Listen to this.
The administration didn't seem to know our story. They didn't seem to know Nicole's name, our names. People from the military certainly knew our story, Nicole's name, our names, and that was expressed to us in a way that felt very genuine and loving. But when it came to the people in suits, it felt disingenuous and hollow.
First, he called me Mrs. Lopez, and I was not Mrs. Lopez. And he just talked about his son and said how much he knows or he understands how do we feel because he lost his kid and he didn't know how we feel because he was there with his son when he passed. We didn't have that privilege. We received our kids in a casket. I just feel so disrespectful by that man because it was all about him.
We had decided as a family that we would not meet with the president. So we were actually in a room on the side. We had decided because strong opinions, and then out on the tarmac, it made it even worse. The disrespect that we were shown with him checking his watch, not even looking at us. It was just total disrespect.
Someone screamed at President Biden, "Burn in hell."
That was my daughter. Yes. And she meant it.
And she meant it. I think we have a lot of Americans who share that sentiment. Sad. No amount of campaigning on Bidenomics is going to fix that problem. Ever. Is it? The answer is no, it's not. We'll get back to the news after this quick break and a message from our sponsor, Birch Gold. Vladimir Putin called the United States dollar's drop in dominance objective and irreversible. During the recent BRICS summit in South Africa, as Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa formally agreed to use local currencies instead of the U.S. dollar, it's the first shoe to drop. As demand for the dollar weakens, the buying power of the dollar weakens. That's why Birch Gold Group is busier than ever. Investors and savers are looking to harness the power of physical gold held in a tax-sheltered IRA. Text America to 989898 for your free information kit on gold with thousands of happy customers, an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau, and countless 5-star reviews. You can count on Birch Gold to help you navigate transitioning an existing IRA or 401k into an IRA in gold. And the U.S. dollar continues to receive pressure from foreign countries, digital currency, and central banks. Arm yourself with information on how to protect your savings. Text America to 989898 and claim your free information kit right now. Be money ahead. Be smarter than the other guys. All right. Coming up after the break, 5 pro-life advocates may face some serious jail time for protesting at a Washington, D.C. abortion clinic. Dr. Jeff Myers joining me next to discuss this on America's Voice Live. Well, listen to this because this is a bit shocking. 5 pro-life advocates who entered a Washington, D.C. abortion facility as part of a rescue in October 2020 were convicted of felony charges, a ruling that at least one activist plans to appeal. All 5 defendants, including 28-year-old director of activism for the Progressive Anti-Abortion Uprising, Lauren Handy, convicted of felony conspiracy against rights and felony violation of the Freedom of Access to Clinic Entrances Act. Each person facing up to 11 years in prison and a fine of up to $350,000. Handy, who organized the demonstration, testified in court that she viewed an undercover video of the facility released by the pro-life group Live Action that she believed showed abortionists refusing to offer care to a child who survived an abortion attempt. Her lawyer argues that Handy was not trying to halt reproductive health care, but was instead motivated by her belief that illegal activities were taking place inside that facility. Pro-life activists are saying that the judge stacked the jury pool with members who describe themselves as pro-choice and admitted that they marched for abortion as well as donated to Planned Parenthood. If they did that, how is that a fair jury pool? Dr. Jeff Myers from Summit Ministries joins me now with the details. 11 years in prison, Jeff. Pretty shocking.
It is shocking. This whole case just stinks to high heaven. You've got this federal judge, Colleen Kollar-Kotelly, who is a known pro-abortion advocate, someone who's actually tried to develop a theory that refusing to not have a right to abortion is actually involuntary servitude. It's slavery for women to be forced to carry their children to full term. That's an argument, obviously, that that the Supreme Court's never picked up. It's a very radical idea, but she's advocating this. And then instead of stepping aside, she takes on this case and not only argues that these people violated the FACE Act, which it's not actually very clear because the FACE Act says that you cannot injure, oppress, or intimidate others who are trying to exercise a constitutional right. But after Dobbs, there is no federal constitutional right to abortion. But she said that their nonviolent actions constituted violence. Therefore, they had to be taken immediately into custody, not allowed to be out free. Obviously, these people are not a danger to anyone.
Okay, wait a second. This is where it goes wrong for me. Words are not violence, right? Words are not violence, period. Violence is violence. Getting punched in the face, that's violence. Getting knocked down, tackled, accosted, that's violence. Well, how are words violence?
You have gotten right to the heart of the issue. In this current regime, words are seen as a form of violence. The idea that you should be free to be able to say things that other people might find offensive, which the Constitution guarantees, is not something that is supported by many people in the federal judiciary. And when it comes to issues like abortion.
Yeah, I know you're old enough to remember this, Jeff. I know you are. And no could be of your age, right? No ageism here. Sticks and stones will break my bones. Words will never hurt me. How many hundreds of times did I hear that in elementary school, middle school, whatever, growing up? Look, words are not violence. Words are the foundational principle of this nation. The idea that you can have a spirited debate. You can say whatever you want back and forth, and people get angry, people get emotional, people get their feelings hurt. But that's how you have this robust exchange of ideas. But lately in America, you're exactly right. We see speech being criminalized at an ever more rapid pace. Speech is not violence. Yeah, and I'm just going to use a Mike Tyson quote. Everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face. That's violence, right? Period. Help me here.
Well, you're right. The students I'm sending off from Summit Ministries to go to colleges this fall are all facing this in their schools. They are being told that if they hurt someone else's feelings, that what they are saying is by definition wrong because other people find it offensive. The United States Constitution and the Bill of Rights guarantees the right to free speech. We talk about this on a lot of the shows that we do together. it protects offensive speech. In fact, it only protects offensive speech. Inoffensive speech doesn't need to be protected. So the federal Constitution is at risk in cases like this, and I can only imagine that there will be some kind of appeal if this goes to the Supreme Court. I think this judge is going to be revealed for trying to use her federal judgeship as a platform to try to make a very radical argument about the Constitution, that women who are pregnant are enslaved by this. And it's not something the Supreme Court is going to accept. But meanwhile, these people are stuck in jail because they're clearly nonviolent acts. The whole thing was live streamed. Are seen as violent because they were against abortion. And they're against abortion, violence. By the way. We should mention this. This clinic that they were protesting, this guy is like the Washington, D.C. Kermit Gosnell, according to some reports. He's being investigated right now by the Washington, D.C. police for allowing babies to die after his efforts to abort them have failed.
Exactly what the rumor was that sparked this protest in the first place, is what you're saying.
Well, right. And the people who protested believed that what was going on there was illegal activity. That is not activity that is covered by this FACE Act that you mentioned. If what they're doing is actually killing babies like Kermit Gosnell did, and they've got some kind of a house of horrors there, then their actions should be viewed in a totally different light. But the idea, and you mentioned this at the outset, it's really the core thing. If nonviolent protests are now going to be called violent and people are going to be put in prison for a very long time, then the First Amendment to the Constitution means a whole lot less than it meant just a few weeks ago.
It means nothing. It means nothing. That's why the Supreme Court has to rule in favor of the freedom of speech. Otherwise, if they can go after these folks, they can go after anybody. And what the left doesn't seem to understand is that when they run out of people to target, you're next. Jeff, as always, thank you.
The left is cannibalistic, if anything else. Yep.
Oh, yeah. The circular firing squad will show up sooner or later. Dr. Jeff Myers, always appreciate his input. All right. After the break, the American Library Association promoting socialism and disregarding the First Amendment as well. Are you surprised? Stick around. Well, the American Library Association president, Emily Drabinsky, is her name, who openly identifies as a Marxist lesbian, has allowed her far-left political agenda to infiltrate libraries and undermine traditional roles as spaces for intellectual freedom. Drabinsky was introduced as comrade and spoke controversial remarks at the Socialism 2023 conference, advocating for libraries to be sites of socialist organizing. Oh yeah, they want to turn your local library into the communist manifesto hall. Listen.
Higher education libraries have been under attack in similar ways, but I think your point that public education needs to be a site of socialist organizing, I think libraries really do too, and that hasn't, I haven't seen that for the working in libraries, but I think there's real opportunity here to both connect what's happening in public education, what's happening in libraries, but also we need some help in the libraries, and we need to be on the agenda of socialist organizing.
Hard to understand that. That's why it was on the screen for you there. She participated in one panel called Freedom to Learn, Black and Asian American Solidarity Against Attack on Anti-Racist Education, suggesting smuggling critical race theory into curriculums even when it is outlawed. Senator Marco Rubio and other members of Congress are calling for an investigation into the ALA's actions, accusing the organization of discriminating against certain voices and violating, once again, the First Amendment. There you have it. New York City officials encouraged residents to wear masks over the Labor Day weekend as COVID cases rose and two new variants, EG5 Eris and BA286, emerged. The city's health department insists that they have no immediate plans to impose mask mandates. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, data from August 23 shows that the New York City is currently experiencing a 5% increase in hospital admissions with an infection rate of around 18 cases per 100,000 people. This rate still significantly below the national peak in January 15 of 22, when more than 150,000 people were hospitalized. On August 26th, there were 15,000 people hospitalized nationally. You see, the CDC reports this as a 19% increase from the 12,000 plus cases reported the prior week. Arkansas State University, California State University, and Jacksonville University have reinstated mask requirements due to a 0.03% uptick in deaths. 0.03%. That's about 380 deaths nationwide in a country of 350 million people, give or take. Panic? I'll go ahead and pass. Connecticut's law enforcement faces a scandal involving over 100 officers allegedly falsifying thousands of traffic stops to boost their numbers. An audit revealed record manipulation between 2014 and 2021, with at least 25,966 false stops and up to 58,553 inaccuracies. Ken Barone, the audit co-author, suggested officers aim to be seen as more productive due to a lack of oversight. The Connecticut Racial Profiling Prohibition Project says skewed reporting could distort perceptions about racial disparities, making it harder to address potential discrimination. The data revealed a disproportionate number of white motorists had been stopped. Wow, wait a second. Andrew Matthews, the state police union's general counsel, said 27 troopers were cleared and is suing to withhold troopers' names during the investigation due to trooper safety. Matthews questions the audit's methodology, citing discrepancies between electronic and handwritten ticketing. The audit accuses troopers of logging multiple violations in limited time frames. Governor Ned Lamont and the U.S. Department of Justice have launched investigations in investigating the transparency and emphasizing it and accountability to rebuild public trust. Well, Giant Food removing national brand name health and beauty care items from its stores on Alabama Avenue in Southeast D.C. in response to a surge in shoplifting. That's the 8th Ward, by the way. Communications and Community Relations Manager for Giant Food, John Ahrens, expressed concern, stating, quote, "The retail theft that we are experiencing across our market area is a problem that affects all of us, limiting product availability, creating a less convenient shopping experience, and most critically, placing our associates and customers in harm's way. To address this issue, The grocery chain has stationed employees at the door for receipt checks, like Costco does, acknowledging the disruption is necessary due to the increasing cost of theft for the company. And more importantly, if this store goes away, it's the last store in the 8th Ward. It's a low-income area of D.C. Without that store, that entire neighborhood is going to be damaged. Stop the thieves. Get it under control, or the people there that have no other options will have no options at all. Defund the police? Get a clue. We'll get back to the news after a quick break and a message from our sponsor, My Patriot Supply. I mean, do you get the feeling something bad's going to happen and sometime soon? Because I do. But between the distractions and smokescreens in the media, we probably won't see it coming. That's why it's smart to invest in emergency food right away. As they say, it's better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it. My Patriot Supply is the nation's leader in high-quality emergency food. Head to the website, preparewithrav.com. You'll save $200 on your 3-month emergency food kit from My Patriot Supply. Enjoy a wide variety of delicious meals, over 2,000 calories every day for optimum strength under stress. Stock up before panic sets in. Free shipping is automatic, and your order ships fast. Go to preparewithrav.com. That's preparewithrav.com. Now, after the break, we'll have a story that reminds you of just how wonderful this country is, plus your answers to the America's Voice question of the day. If Biden is unable to run in 2024, who is the Democrats' best alternative? I look forward to finding out. You can't trust a man who doesn't fish. It's one of the Gruber rules of life. It's a Gruberism. You cannot trust a man who doesn't fish. And I've heard a lot of fish stories in my day, but never one like this. This one doesn't even involve a fish. You see, this summer, Connor Halsa reeled in the fishing story of a lifetime when he went searching for walleye in a Minnesota lake. Common thing to do. He didn't get a walleye. He got a wallet. A wallet instead. Connor recalls the moment. Listen.
My cousin Brandon, he opened the wallet up and he was like, he said some words that you probably shouldn't say, and then he said that there's some money in it, and he like showed everyone, and then we like took the money out and placed it all on the dashboard to like let it dry off.
He said some words you shouldn't say. Oh, he was surprised. Holy shikey. Inside $2,000 in cash, wet and soggy, but nonetheless cold and metaphorically hard. Still, Connor and his dad agreed immediately they needed to find the owner. Inside was a soggy business card with a number on it, and they used that to track down the owner 600 miles away in Iowa. Jim Denny lost it on a fishing retreat, but that was over a year ago, so he thought that was long gone. So after hearing the news, Denny traveled all the way up from Iowa to Moorhead, Minnesota, to reunite with the old billfold and the cash that was found in it. Very impressed with the integrity of the young man and tried to give him a reward, but Connor wouldn't have it. He explains why.
We didn't really work hard for the money. He did, so it was his money.
We didn't work for that money. It's not my money. Then Denny said something that was probably worth more than the money in the wallet. Listen to this.
I would take Connor for a grandson any day, and I'd fight for him any day.
Take him as a grandson any day. Just think of the odds of snagging a wallet on a lake of that size, man. That's quite a deal. All right, so if Joe Biden is unable to run in 2024, who is the Democrats' best alternative? Ed Lasky writes, Kennedy is the only real choice for Democrats. I have a feeling they're trying to draft Michelle Obama to run, though. Maybe. Dan Overturf, there isn't one. Robin Meredith writes, no one I can think of. They're all criminals. I don't think RFK is a criminal. You just might not agree with him. Charlie Dunman, ask the FBI and the CIA. They're calling all the shots anyway. Some would wonder. Julie Kraftjack, oh, he'll run, and they'll cheat us again. Don't have that attitude, Judy. Come on, chin up. Chin up. And Mike Reentz writes, if I try to imagine what a liberal would do, I'd say Newsom or Michelle Obama. All right. So don't forget to drop me a line. Say, hey, Groobs, here's what's up. Go to SteveGruber.com. Drop me a note. Here's what I like. Here's what I don't like. Here's what we can do better. Here's a great story that you're not covering. I look forward to all of it. SteveGruber.com. Drop me a note. Please do. Don't forget to start your day tomorrow with the Steve Gruber Show, again with me. Lots of coffee, lots of attitude, lots of news at 6 a.m. And then back here for AVL.
Here are some of the headlines we are featuring today from your favorite